Welcome to Layer of the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, let's discuss Scorpions' 1982 album Blackout and their 1984 album Love at First Sting. So, I did a video not too long ago on the album Love Drive, and I commented in there about how that album was a turning point for the band. Their original guitar player, Uli Roth, had left. They moved on with Michael Schenker was on that album. Matthias Jabs was also on Love Drive. And the band definitely started moving in a more commercial hard rock direction. Rudolf Schenker takes over as the primary songwriter, and he writes all the music on these two albums. The lyrics are usually handled by vocalist Klaus Meine and sometimes drummer Herman Rarebell. So the band sort of becomes Rudolph's thing, starting with Love Drive. And so they had been moving in this direction since Love Drive and Animal Magnetism. But Blackout is the album that really broke them big. They got on MTV with No One Like You. It just turned Rock You Like a Hurricane from Love at First Sting, Still Loving You. These are the two albums that really, really broke them big. So that's kind of why I wanted to do these two albums at the same time. So the band, Klaus Meine, he's on vocals. I think he has a great, great voice. In some ways, a little bit of an underrated voice. Like, you don't hear him get talked about a lot when people talk about the great metal singers like Halford or Dickinson. But Klaus has an amazing voice, and he sounds great on these records. He sounds great through all of the Scorpions catalog. Rudolf Schenker, who, like I said, is taking over now as the primary songwriter here with the band for the music. Matthias Jabs on lead guitar, and although he had come in before this, I think on Blackout he starts to play in a slightly different style, and it becomes, on these two albums for me, the interplay between the rhythm guitar and the lead guitar between Rudolf and Matthias is interesting, because Rudolf plays a very straight ahead Malcolm Young style rhythm playing. I heard him, and he has a great rhythm guitar sound too. That's another thing. The guitars on these records sound great, especially for me on Blackout. And I heard Rudolf describe his guitar sound as he was going for the sound of a karate chop. And I thought that's pretty accurate, because his guitar is just, it's really present, really clear, it's really direct, it just really punches and jumps out at you. We're going to talk about that as we get into the album. And then Matthias Jabs, the way he plays is, it's almost like he's almost constantly playing lead. Like, he'll play the riff, but then he's playing all these like fills and dive bombs and extra notes. So it's almost like two independent guitar things going on. And I think that that's really interesting. Most of the songs are like that. There are times when they lock in on the same riff, but there's a lot of times, like on the opening track of the album, Blackout, where Matthias is just playing like leads almost against, while Rudolf is holding down the straight ahead rhythm. Francis Buchholz on bass. He has some cool stuff, I think, on Blackout. I think by the time Love at First Sting came around, he started just playing less and playing simpler lines. If you go back and hear his bass playing on the 70s stuff, the Uli Roth era stuff, he's a very busy bass player. And as time went on, he just sort of played less and less and less. I think there's a lot of really interesting bass parts on Blackout. I think on Love at First Sting, he sort of disappears in the background a little bit for me. Herman Rarebell, great, solid, hard-hitting drummer. So both these albums were produced by Dieter Dierks, who was somebody the band had a long relationship with. I think the production on Blackout is just great. I talked about the guitars already, that karate chop rhythm guitar sound is great, really up front. The bass sounds great, the drums sound great on it. Love at First Sting, to me, is a little thinner and brighter sounding. And interestingly enough, I think this was on the cassette tape that I had, where it actually said on the front of the album something like, this album uses a new digital technology. So it must have been a really early album to be recorded digitally. And to me, I sort of hear it on this record. It's a little thin. The bass guitar just sort of disappears in the mix a little bit. The guitars are a little bit bright. The drums are a little bit thinner. And so maybe it's just the new technology or something, but just for me, Love at First Sting doesn't have quite the warmth that Blackout did. Blackout for me sonically sounds like Animal Magnetism and Love Drive. They all three kind of have the same sonic feel to me, whereas Love at First Sting gets really sort of bright and a little bit harsh for my ears. So Blackout starts off with the song Blackout. I talked a little bit about that earlier. I love that opening rhythm guitar thing, and that is sort of becoming, in this new era of the Scorpions after Uli left, almost like a trademark thing here now for the Scorpions, these AC/DC Malcolm Young style rhythm things, and that's a great guitar sound. And then, like I mentioned, Matthias Jabs, the way he's playing with all the dive bombs and little fills and everything. It's a great album opener. Klaus sounds awesome on it. It's got a big chorus to it. Can't Live Without You is a fun rocker. No One Like You was the big hit off this record, and the one that really broke them big on MTV. They had the video for it. Super simple song, but super catchy. This is a zone that I think the Scorps would be really dialed in on. And for me, this is the peak of that. Commercial hard rock, but still really interesting. It's a simple, straight-ahead song, but it's got that real memorable guitar thing in the beginning. It's got another really big chorus, the way it drops down in the verses, and then a really big chorus. So really great. You Give Me All I Need and Now. Those are fun, upbeat ones. I like Dynamite. Dynamite to me is very similar to Blackout. It's a real upbeat, high energy one. Again, this would become a thing sort of for the Scorpions, this real sort of high energy, heavy metal, hard rock sound. Arizona, lyrics by Herman Rarebell, kind of a throwaway, fun, I guess, melodic one. It's catchy. I like the guitar intro. I like the way the two guitars are a little out of sync with each other, and then they're playing a syncopated rhythm against each other, and then they lock in. If you want to have sort of a cringe a little bit, or just chuckle at the innocence of the era, there's actually a video for Arizona, and the first time I saw it, I thought it was something that somebody recently just threw together, because it's so dated looking and it is so just sort of corny. The band's not even in it. It's got all these pics of like girls doing very badly choreographed dance moves out. I guess it's supposed to be in Arizona in a desert. I mean, it's just funny, but in a very innocent early 80s way, when people were just starting to put attention towards videos, but it hadn't blown up quite like, the whole Michael Jackson era of, Thriller style big productions. So it's a fun one. Look it up. China White. This is one that I really like. It's got like a heavy groove to it. And I love the way everything sort of drops out, and it's just the drums and the vocals, and then the guitars come in really heavy with like this grinding, grooving thing. The bass sounds really, really awesome on that one. When the Smoke Is Going Down. This is maybe starts to become a tradition here with the new era of the Scorpions with ballads. And this one doesn't quite live up to Still Loving You, but it's still cool. It closes out the album very similar to the way Still Loving You would. So on to Love at First Sting. For me, Blackout is the first Scorpions album that I had. Again, they broke big on the radio, on MTV. You were hearing them on the radio. And this was my introduction to the Scorpions, these two albums, and then I kind of went backwards, because I really kind of lost track of them after Love at First Sting. And although I like Love at First Sting, to me it's not quite you could tell that this album was a big breakout album for them, and then they sort of tried to do the same thing. They had a formula here, and they were trying to follow up on this record with the success of Blackout. And they do in a lot of ways. Rock You Like a Hurricane is maybe their biggest hit. It's a song that's become like, represents 80s radio rock metal. It's a song that maybe I don't really need to ever hear again, but hey, you hear it at sporting events. It's sort of it's taken on its own life. Bad Boys Running Wild. Here's more upbeat. Scorpions, great guitar fills and everything from Matthias all over that one. I'm Leaving You is fun. I actually like that one. I'm a sucker for melodic hooks. I love when it kicks into the chorus of the song, keep me in your mind till and it's doing almost like a reggae style beat. It has this sort of a feel change. It's like kind of rocking along, and then it drops into like a reggae-ish feel with that super melodic chorus. And it's catchy and it's fun. That's another sort of cringy video. If you have time, look it up. There's them getting off of a bus and they see a girl's softball team, and before you know it, they're in a hotel together, and there's one of the husbands running around with a shotgun. It's classic early 80s goofy, lighthearted MTV video fun. So Coming Home, another upbeat driver, then this sort of Scorpions signature thing. Same thrill, okay song. Big City Nights, this was another one that was a huge hit for them. Classic MTV video, the band goofing around backstage, girls in the audience smiling and looking up at the band. Really, they're just, they're really riding high at this point. They're really huge at this point. And that's a fun song. It's got a cool riff. It's got a really great chorus to it. So I got to give them credit. They were writing good, catchy, hard rock, heavy metal songs at this point. As Soon as the Good Times Roll, that one's fun. I like the chorus in that one. Crossfire's okay. And then, of course, Still Loving You. And this is I love this song. It's an awesome 80s metal ballad. Ballads would get completely out of control later in the 80s, where everybody felt like they needed to do one, and it got all really corny and everything. But on this, it really works. Klaus Meins is an amazing vocal performance. This was on my list of favorite rock ballads. I absolutely love the part where it builds up at the end and he does a "Still Loving You," and the song goes out on that, and just absolutely amazing. Killer 80s metal vocal performance there, and just a great, really well written song. They were building up to this with the ballads before this, Holiday and When the Smoke Comes Down and everything, and this is day bullseye. They hit it with Still Loving You. So all right, so there you go. Blackout, Love at First Sting. I like Blackout a little bit better. There are some really good stuff on Love at First Sting. After this, I would really lose track of the Scorpions. For me, they would fall way too much in trying to be a radio rock, radio metal band, and I would really lose track of what they did. But that whole progression from Love Drive, Animal Magnetism, Blackout, and then Love at First Sting, really, to me, that's just a steady climb for them, and for their popularity, it all sort of peaks here with Love at First Sting. Okay, so let me know in the comments what you think of these two albums. Which one do you like better? What do you think of this era of the Scorpions, this more melodic hard rock era of the band? Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.